Have you ever looked at your grocery receipt and felt like crying? Food prices are absolutely out of control. But what if I told you that your boring empty fences and bare walls could actually pay for your groceries? Welcome to the ultimate gardening secret. Today we are talking about 9 incredible climbing plants that produce food all year round. And the best part? You only have to plant them one single time. I promise you by the end of this video, you will look at vertical spaces in a completely new way. You will learn how to turn a tiny balcony or a simple wooden post into an endless fountain of fresh, delicious food. Here is a crazy thought. Most people believe you have to break your back, digging in the dirt every single spring, to get a decent harvest. They think gardening is a never-ending cycle of hard work, but that is a total lie. We are going to flip that idea upside down. I'm going to show you how lazy you can truly be while still harvesting baskets of food. Do you think it is impossible to grow a jungle of food in a tiny space? Let me know right now in the comments. Are you ready to agree with me? Or do you still think traditional row gardening is the only way? Let us find out. Before we jump into our amazing list of plants, we need to talk about why vertical gardening with perennial plants is like a cheat code for life. Let us take a quick trip back in time. Thousands of years ago, the ancient Babylonians created the hanging gardens. They figured out that growing plants upwards instead of outwards saves space and creates a magical environment. They knew something that modern agriculture totally forgot. Fast forward to today, and we are stuck with flat farms that require endless ploughing. But we are going to use the Babylonian method. We are focusing on perennial climbers. Perennial simply means the plant lives for many years. It does not die when winter comes or when the season ends. It goes to sleep, or in warm climates, it just keeps growing and producing. Climbing plants are nature's vertical explorers. They use little tendrils or aerial roots to grab onto things and reach for the sun. By combining these two things, perennial plants and climbing habits, we create a system that takes up zero floor space but yields massive amounts of food. You do not need a tractor. You do not need a massive plot of land. All you need is a little bit of dirt and a direction to grow, which is straight up. Now let us meet the superstar plants that will transform your walls into a living pantry. So let us dive right in with our first incredible plant. Have you ever tasted a fresh passion fruit? It is like a tropical vacation packed inside a little purple shell. Now let us talk about the passion fruit vine. Many people believe a huge myth about this plant. They think tropical fruits are totally impossible to grow unless you live in a steamy jungle. But that is simply not true. You can actually grow passion fruit in many temperate climates. Even if it gets a bit cold, certain varieties are incredibly tough and will survive. Picture this vivid example in your own backyard. You have an ugly chain link fence. It is rusty and completely boring. You plant just one passion fruit vine at the base. Within a few short months, that ugly fence is completely covered in lush green leaves. Then come the flowers. Passion fruit flowers look like alien spaceships. They are purple and white and absolutely stunning. After the flowers fade, you get dozens of round, heavy fruits. They hang there like little green and purple ornaments. It is like turning your boring fence into a personal juice bar. You just walk outside, grab a fruit, cut it open, and scoop out the sweet, tangy inside. It is incredibly easy and highly rewarding. Now let us talk about how to actually take care of that beautiful passion fruit vine. There is a very common myth that you need acres of land to grow your own fruit. People think you need an entire giant orchard to see any real results. But here is the amazing truth. You can grow this massive vine in a simple container. Imagine you live in a small apartment. You only have a tiny, sunny balcony. You can get a large pot, stick a wooden trellis right into the dirt, and plant your passion fruit. It will climb right up and create a beautiful privacy screen. No more staring at your noisy neighbours. Instead, you're looking at a thick wall of green leaves and tropical fruit. The real secret trick here is pruning. You have to show the plant who is the boss. If you let it go completely crazy, it will just produce a ton of leaves. But if you trim back the wild branches, it forces the plant to make more flowers and more fruit. It is exactly like giving it a nice, healthy haircut. So do not be afraid to grab your garden shears. Just clip away the extra growth. Your plant will actually thank you by giving you a much bigger harvest. Moving on to our second amazing plant. Let me introduce you to Malabar spinach. This is not your regular, boring grocery store spinach. There is a huge myth that spinach only grows in cold, chilly weather. People think that as soon as summer arrives, all your leafy greens will just bolt, turn bitter, and die. But Malabar spinach completely breaks all the rules. It absolutely loves the blazing hot summer sun. Picture this gorgeous example. You have an archway over your garden path. You plant Malabar spinach, and it quickly wraps around the entire structure. But it gets better. The stems of this vine are a brilliant, vibrant red colour. The leaves are thick, glossy, and dark green. It looks like a highly expensive ornamental plant that belongs in a botanical garden, but it is entirely edible. You can walk right under your archway, pluck a few beautiful leaves, and toss them straight into your salad bowl. It provides a constant supply of fresh, crunchy greens during the hottest months of the year. When all your other vegetables are wilting from the intense heat, your Malabar spinach is climbing higher, looking stunning, and feeding your family. Let us dig a little deeper into how you use and care for this brilliant red Malabar spinach. There is a frustrating myth in the gardening world that bugs will automatically eat all of your leafy greens before you even get a chance to taste them. We have all seen cabbage leaves full of holes, but Malabar spinach is remarkably resistant to most common garden pests. The leaves are thick and slightly fleshy, which bugs just do not seem to enjoy. Imagine this simple scenario in your kitchen. You come home after a long day at work. You do not want to go to the store. You just step out the back door and grab a huge handful of these thick, succulent leaves. Because they are so sturdy, they hold up incredibly well to cooking. You can chop them up and throw them into a hot wok with some garlic and soy sauce. They do not turn to total mush like regular spinach does. They keep a lovely, slight crunch. It is the absolute easiest stir-fry you will ever make. Plus, as long as the weather stays warm, the vine will just keep growing new leaves to replace the ones you ate. You literally cut it, and it immediately grows right back. Our third plant is a true monster of production. It is called the chayote squash. If you want endless food, this is your holy grail. Now, there is a widely believed myth that all squash plants are fragile and die completely when the winter frost hits, while a hard freeze will kill the top leaves. A mature chayote plant has a massive underground root system. In milder climates, it sleeps for a short time and then explodes back to life. Picture this incredible example of growth. You plant one single chayote seed near an old dead tree in your yard. Within one growing season, that vine will climb 30 feet up into the branches. It will completely swallow the dead tree in a blanket of green. And then, the magic happens. It starts dropping pear-shaped, light green squashes. We are not talking about 5 or 10 squashes. A single, healthy vine can produce over 100 squashes in a single year. It is so much food that you will be giving it away to your friends, your family, and people you do not even know. It is the ultimate survival plant because it requires almost no effort to produce a mountain of calories. So, how do you handle this giant chayote squash vine? There is a funny myth that you have to wait for months just to eat the actual squash fruit. People think the rest of the plant is totally useless, but that is entirely wrong. Every single part of the chayote plant is edible. Let me give you a wonderful culinary example. While you are waiting for the big squashes to grow, you can go out and snip off the young, curly tendrils and the tender top leaves. You bring them inside, sauté them in a pan with a little bit of butter and lemon juice, and you have a gourmet side dish. It tastes very similar to fresh asparagus. Even the massive root underground is edible and tastes like a potato. Imagine having one single plant that gives you leafy greens, delicious climbing shoots, potato substitutes, and hundreds of crispy squashes. You treat it by giving it a very strong structure to climb on, because the weight of 100 squashes will crush a cheap flimsy trellis. Give it an old pergola or a strong fence. Stand back and watch it take over your yard with an endless buffet of green food. Let us shift gears to something truly exotic for our fourth plant. Meet the dragon fruit. This is a climbing cactus that looks like it came from another planet. There is a stubborn myth that cacti can only grow in dry, lifeless desert sand where nothing else survives. But dragon fruit is actually a tropical cactus. It loves moisture and rich dirt. Picture this amazing setup in your yard. You have a thick, heavy wooden post. You plant the dragon fruit at the base. It sends out long, green, fleshy arms that grab onto the wood and pull themselves up. It looks like a green octopus climbing a pole. Then it produces these massive, bright, neon pink fruits with green scales. They look totally fake because they are so vibrant. When you cut them open, the inside is pure white or deep red, speckled with tiny black seeds. It is sweet, refreshing, and packed with vitamins. You do not need to live in a desert to grow this. In fact, if you live in a colder zone, you can easily grow this cactus in a large pot on wheels and simply roll it inside your garage during the coldest weeks of winter. Taking care of a dragon fruit vine comes with a very specific, magical secret. There is a common myth that plants just naturally pollinate themselves during the day while you are not looking, but dragon fruit is dramatic. It only opens its giant, beautiful white flowers in the middle of the dark night. And those flowers usually only live for one single night. Imagine this crazy midnight adventure. It is 11 o'clock at night. You walk out to your patio with a small flashlight and a soft makeup brush. The flowers are fully open, and they smell absolutely intoxicating, like sweet vanilla and jasmine. You take your little makeup brush and gently sweep the pollen from one part of the flower to the other. You are acting as a giant nighttime bee. It takes about 10 seconds per flower. A few weeks later, that exact spot swells up into a heavy, juicy dragon fruit. It is a fun, interactive way to garden. And because the plant is perennial, those green, fleshy arms will stay alive year after year, throwing out more flowers and more alien fruits every single summer, without ever needing to be replanted. For our fifth plant, we are looking at the most expensive spice you can easily grow at home. I am talking about the vanilla orchid. There is a massive myth out there that vanilla beans come from a giant, ancient tree in a faraway rainforest. The truth is, vanilla comes from a climbing vine. It is literally an orchid that grows straight up. Picture this incredible indoor jungle example. You have a bright living room with a large window. You place a tall pole wrapped in soft moss in a pot. You plant your vanilla orchid and it begins to snake its way up the pole right inside your house. The leaves are thick, green, and beautiful. Eventually, it produces gorgeous, pale yellow flowers. If you pollinate them, they turn into long, green pods. Those are actual vanilla beans. Imagine baking a cake, walking over to your living room wall, snipping off a cured vanilla pod, and scraping out the fresh, fragrant seeds. The smell alone is worth $1 million. You are bypassing the extremely high grocery store prices and growing premium, world-class spices right next to your television. Growing a vanilla orchid indoors might sound intimidating, but let us bust a myth right now. Many people think you absolutely must have a commercial $1 million greenhouse with perfect climate control to keep an orchid alive. That is just silly. You just need to understand what the plant wants. It wants to be a little bit warm and a little bit humid. Think about the most humid room in your house. It is probably your bathroom. Imagine this clever setup. You have a sunny window in your bathroom. You put your vanilla vine right there. Every time you take a hot, steamy shower, you are actually feeding and watering your plant with that humid air. It acts just like a miniature rainforest. The vine climbs happily, absorbing the moisture. All you have to do is be patient. It takes a couple of years for the vine to get long enough to start making those magical flowers. But remember, You only plant it once. It becomes a permanent part of your home decor that eventually rewards you with the most incredible, aromatic flavour on earth. It is the perfect lazy indoor project for spice lovers. Let us stay on the topic of incredible spices for our sixth climbing plant. We are talking about the black pepper vine. This is the exact same pepper sitting in the shaker on your dining room table right now. There is a widespread myth that common spices like black pepper only grow on short bushes in giant commercial fields in India. But black pepper is actually a vigorous climbing vine. Picture this amazing example right in your own kitchen or patio. You have a nice-sized pot with a wooden trellis. The vine has beautiful dark green, heart-shaped leaves. It looks incredibly similar to a common houseplant, but hiding under those leaves are long chains of tiny green berries. Those green berries are fresh peppercorns. Imagine cooking a nice steak. Instead of reaching for a dusty jar of store-bought pepper that has been sitting on a shelf for 3 years, you walk over to your vine. You pluck a small cluster of fresh green peppercorns, crush them with a knife, and rub them right onto the meat. The flavour is sharp, fruity, and absolutely explosive. You will never want to buy stale pepper from a plastic bottle ever again. So how do you keep a black pepper vine happy and producing? Let us shatter another common gardening myth. People always assume that if a plant produces food or fruit, it absolutely must stand in blazing full sun for 12 hours a day. If you put a pepper vine in direct scorching sun, it will actually burn and get very angry. This plant naturally grows in the jungle underneath taller trees. It loves dappled shade. Imagine this perfect garden example. You have a large oak tree or a covered patio that gets bright light but no direct sunshine. You place your pepper vine right there in the gentle shade. It thrives in that protected environment. It slowly climbs its support, staying cool and comfortable. As the berries ripen, they change from green to red. You can pick them when they are green, or wait until they are red, and then dry them out in the sun until they turn black and wrinkled. You have literally grown, harvested, and cured your own black pepper. It is a fantastic conversation starter when you have guests over for dinner. You can point to the shady corner and say, "That is where my seasoning comes from." Moving on to plant number 7, let us add a massive splash of colour to our vertical garden. I am talking about the climbing nasturtium. Now, there is a very sad myth that flowers are strictly for decoration. People think flowers belong in a vase on the table, not on your dinner plate. But climbing nasturtium proves that beauty and food can be the exact same thing. Picture this stunning visual example. You have a bare wooden fence. You plant nasturtium seeds at the bottom. The vines shoot up rapidly, covering the wood with unique, round leaves that look like tiny lily pads. Then it explodes into a riot of bright orange, yellow, and red trumpet-shaped flowers. It looks like a painting, but the magic happens when you get hungry. Every single part above the ground is entirely edible. You can walk out, pick a handful of those bright orange flowers, and drop them right on top of a green salad. They do not just look pretty. They pack a powerful, peppery, spicy punch, very similar to a radish. You're growing an edible wall of fire that spices up your meals and makes your yard look like a total masterpiece. The best part about growing climbing nasturtiums is how incredibly lazy you can be with the dirt. There is a persistent myth that to grow huge amounts of edible plants, you need to buy expensive, ultra-rich compost and constantly dump fertilizer everywhere. Nasturtiums actually hate that. If you give them rich dirt, they get lazy and only grow green leaves, totally forgetting to make any flowers. Imagine this absolutely perfect example. You have a spot in your yard where the dirt is terrible. It is sandy, hard, and nothing else will survive there. It is the ugly corner of your garden. You toss a few nasturtium seeds into that miserable soil. Because the soil is so poor, the plant goes into panic mode. It thinks it needs to reproduce quickly, so it pumps out hundreds and hundreds of spicy, edible flowers. It thrives in neglect. It is the ultimate plant for a lazy gardener who does not want to spend money on fancy soil. Furthermore, after the flowers fade, they leave behind little green seed pods. You can actually pick those green pods and pickle them in vinegar. They taste exactly like expensive capers. It is gourmet food from the worst dirt in your yard. For our 8th plant, we are looking at a classic vegetable with a brilliant twist. I am talking about scarlet runner beans. Now, there is a universal myth that all green beans are annuals. Everyone believes you have to start them from tiny seeds every single spring, wait for them to grow, harvest them, and watch them die in the fall. But scarlet runner beans are actually perennials if you live in a mild climate or if you protect their roots. Picture this magical garden example. You build a simple teepee out of tall bamboo poles. You plant the beans around the base. They spiral up the poles aggressively, reaching 10 feet into the air. They produce gorgeous bright red flowers that hummingbirds absolutely go crazy for. Then come the huge, delicious green pods. You eat them all summer. Winter comes and the top of the vine dies back. But under the ground, the plant has formed a thick, heavy tuber. When spring rolls around next year, you do not have to plant anything. That underground tuber wakes up and shoots a brand new vine up the pole, thicker and faster than the first year. You plant it once and the bean teepee just keeps coming back to life. Caring for scarlet runner beans brings us to an amazing trick of nature. There is a common myth that aggressive, fast-growing vines will completely drain the soil of all its nutrients, leaving the dirt dead and useless for other plants. But beans have a secret superpower. They are nitrogen fixers. Imagine this brilliant companion planting example. You have a climbing vine that is actually pulling nitrogen gas right out of the air. It pulls that fertilizer down through its stems and pushes it deep into the soil through its roots. It is literally creating free fertilizer out of thin air. So you can plant a heavy-feeding vegetable, like a tomato or a pepper plant, right next to the base of your scarlet runner bean trellis. The bean vine feeds the soil, and the neighbouring plants absorb those free nutrients and grow massive. You do not even have to buy a bag of synthetic fertilizer. You just let the vine do the hard work for you. You harvest the crisp bean pods when they are young and tender for cooking, and you let the plant feed your entire garden ecosystem at the same time. Our final specific plant, number 9, is an absolute showstopper. Let me introduce the hardy kiwi vine. There is a huge myth that kiwis are always the size of baseballs, covered in fuzzy brown hair, and only grow in warm, tropical places like New Zealand. The hardy kiwi is completely different. It can survive freezing temperatures, snow, and ice. Picture this incredible example in your backyard. You have a strong wooden pergola over your patio. You train a hardy kiwi vine to grow up and over the top, creating a beautiful canopy of shade. Late in the summer, you look up, and hanging down like grapes are hundreds of small, smooth, green berries. These are bite-sized kiwis. You do not have to peel them. There is no fuzzy skin. You just reach up, pluck one off the vine, and pop the whole thing into your mouth. It tastes sweeter and more intense than the giant kiwis you buy at the grocery store. It is like having a candy dispenser growing over your patio that comes back stronger and heavier every single year. To get that massive harvest of smooth kiwis, there is one very important rule you must follow. There is a myth that as long as you buy a healthy fruiting plant, it will automatically give you fruit all by itself. But hardy kiwis have a dramatic romantic life. They have distinct genders. You cannot just plant one vine and expect food. Imagine this beautiful plant wedding example. You need a male vine and a female vine. The male vine produces pollen, but it will never make a single fruit. The female vine makes the fruit, but only if the male is nearby. So you plant one male vine on the left side of your archway and one female vine on the right side. They climb up, meet in the middle, and the bees transfer the pollen from the male flowers to the female flowers. Without that partnership, you just get a leafy green vine. But once they are established together, a mature female vine can easily produce over 100 pounds of fresh kiwi berries in a single season. It is a permanent, high-yield investment that pays off in sweet fruit for decades. Now that we have covered these 9 incredible plants, we need to talk about how they stay standing up. Let us discuss the structure. There is a terrible myth spread by big gardening stores that you have to spend hundreds of dollars on fancy, welded metal cages and expensive designer trellises to have a vertical garden. That is a complete waste of money. Mother Nature does not use welded steel. Picture this creative free example. You take a walk in the woods or your neighborhood after a big storm. You gather up long, sturdy fallen tree branches. You bring them home, stick them deep into the dirt, and tie the tops together with some cheap twine. You just made a rustic, perfectly strong teepee structure for absolutely $0. Or imagine taking an old rusty bicycle wheel, mounting it on top of a strong wooden post, and running strings down to the dirt. Your climbing beans or spinach will climb the strings and form a beautiful green column. Your vines do not care how much money you spent. They just need something rough to grab onto. Be creative, use scrap materials, and keep your money in your pocket. Finally, let us talk about the true secret to maintaining a massive vertical garden all year round with minimal effort. There is an exhausting myth that you have to stand outside with a heavy hose, watering your plants every single day, or they will instantly dry up and die. But we are lazy gardeners, remember? We do not want to water every day. The trick is deep, slow hydration. Imagine this ancient, foolproof example called an olla. You take a large, unglazed terracotta clay pot. You bury it completely underneath the dirt right next to the roots of your huge passionfruit or chayote vine. You leave only the top hole exposed above the dirt. You fill that clay pot with water once a week and put a lid on it. Because the clay is porous, the water slowly sweats out into the dirt. The plant roots wrap around the buried pot and drink exactly what they need, exactly when they need it. The surface of the dirt stays dry, which totally prevents weeds, while the deep roots stay perfectly hydrated. You water once a week, and the plants take care of themselves. It is the ultimate system for endless food and total relaxation. Can you believe what we just discovered? We just shattered the illusion that growing your own food requires massive amounts of land, daily backbreaking labour, and replanting every single spring. By choosing perennial climbers like passionfruit, Malabar spinach, chayote squash, and even vanilla, you are setting up an automated food machine. You literally plant a seed or a cutting one time, give it a sturdy stick to climb, and it rewards you with fresh leaves, exotic fruits, and expensive spices year after year. The consequences of this are huge. You stop spending a fortune at the grocery store, you transform ugly fences into gorgeous green walls, and you secure a constant food supply right outside your window. It is the ultimate hack for any lazy gardener or apartment dweller. Thank you so much for watching and learning with us today. If you want to transform your home into an endless food forest, hit that subscribe button right now. Give this video a huge like to help us out, and please leave a comment down below. I want to know, which of these 9 climbing plants surprised you the most, and which one are you going to plant this weekend? Let us start a conversation.